All right, listen, man, I've always been fascinated by ancient stories, like these narratives that come from deep old traditions, whether it's the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. But recently I was looking into the story of Noah's Ark, and I found out the version Islam is actually kind of wild, man. Like, it's familiar but also deeply different in some really interesting ways. So check this out. In Islam, Noah, or as they call him, knew he's not just some guy who built a boat because a flood was coming. He's actually a major prophet sent to warn his people for years. And I'm not talking about like 5 or 10 years. I mean, the Quran literally says he preached to his people for 9. Dude was committed. Imagine doing the same thing for 950 years and still nobody listens to you. 950 years. That's the first thing that blew my mind. I was like, wait, was he some kind of immortal? But that's not the point. In the Quranic narrative, time is symbolic too, and the story's more about the scale of his patience and the resistance he faced. Now here's where it gets even deeper. In the Islamic version, Nuh wasn't just telling people, hey, there's going to be a flood. He was calling them to worship one God, to abandon their idols, to stop their arrogance and corruption. The flood wasn't just a natural disaster. It was this divine response to years of denial, injustice, and moral decay. You see what I mean? This wasn't just a storm. It was like a reckoning. So after preaching for centuries, after being mocked and ignored, Nuh gets this message from God: build the ark. But here's the thing, he builds it on dry land, in the middle of nowhere, and people are like, what the hell is this guy doing? A giant ship in the desert. They laughed at him. Literally ridiculed him, and he just kept building, knowing that one day the flood would come. And then boom, the command comes. The skies open up, the earth gushes water from below, and a massive cataclysmic flood swallows everything. Not just rain, the ground itself erupts. It's apocalyptic. But here's something that hit me real hard, man. In the Islamic story, even Nuh's own son doesn't believe him. Yeah, his own blood. He tells his son to get on the boat, and the kid's like, nah, I'll climb a mountain. I'll be fine. And Nuh is devastated, man. He says, my son is of my family, and God tells him, he is not of your family because he chose the wrong path. That's cold, man, but powerful. The message there is that blood ties don't override moral choices. It's not about family by name, it's about values, belief, character. So eventually only a few people are saved, just the believers. And animals, yeah, Islam says he was told to bring pairs of animals too, but the focus is more on the moral lesson, less on the logistics of how he fit every creature on earth into a boat. It's not a zoological documentary, it's a moral story. You know what I mean? The flood ends, the waters recede, and the ark lands on Mount Judy, not Ararat, like in the Bible. And Nuh gives thanks. It's like a complete reset of civilization. And that's kind of the whole deal. The Islamic view sees the story as a moment where truth and arrogance collided and only truth survived. But here's the trippy part. The Quran doesn't mock the disbelievers or go heavy on revenge. It actually shows Nuh crying for humanity, even when they rejected him. That's deep. He's heartbroken. Because he loved them. He wanted them to change. And the Quran keeps reminding readers, this story isn't just about the past. It's a warning for the present. Like, look around, man. You see arrogance, denial, injustice, all the stuff that was happening in Nuh's time still happening today. It's like the Quran is saying, yo, don't wait for the flood to change. That's what stuck with me. It's not about animals on a boat. It's about human nature, about warning signs, and the patience of a man who literally gave his whole life to help people wake up. And I gotta say, man, when you read that story through the Islamic lens, it's not just spiritual, it's haunting. There's this heavy emotional weight to it. Like, you feel the pain of Nuh, you feel his isolation, and then the divine justice when the flood comes. It's like chills. Anyway, I think people need to stop just dismissing religious texts as fairy tales, especially when you've got stories like this that have been echoing through cultures for thousands of years. There's something there, man. You don't have to believe everything literally, but you gotta respect the wisdom, the warning, and the raw human truth in those stories. All right, that's my rant. Go read Surah Nuh sometime. Just read it with an open mind. It's not long, but man, it's heavy. And you know what's even crazier, man? After all that, the flood, the loss, the trauma, the weight of watching his own son drown, Nuh didn't come out of the ark angry or bitter. Like, think about that. If it was any of us, we'd be crushed. But this guy steps out of the ark, and the first thing he does, he prays, he thanks God. He recognizes that even though everything he knew was gone, he was given a second chance. That's insane strength, dude. And the Quran doesn't just leave the story there. It actually shows that even the prophets, even the righteous, go through unimaginable pain. Noah didn't just survive a flood. He carried the grief of losing a child, losing a whole generation. That's not just a test of faith, man. That's soul-breaking stuff. But here's what's wild. The Quran doesn't dramatize it. It tells it in this quiet, heavy tone. It's like it wants you to sit with it, to really feel it. And that's what makes it powerful. It's not flashy. It's reflective. It's like the Quran is saying, pay attention. This isn't just a story. It's a mirror. You ever notice how a lot of ancient stories end with, and they lived happily ever after? Not here. In Islam, news story is kind of somber. There's no party, no rebuilding montage. It ends with reflection, warning, and a reminder. Most people didn't listen. Most people drowned in their denial. And that message, dude, it's timeless. I mean, seriously, look at the world right now. You got people addicted to power, worshiping money, turning away from truth, ignoring every warning sign. Climate chaos, greed, inequality, disconnection. It's like the flood's not water this time. It's spiritual, it's psychological, it's everywhere. And yet, there are always people like Nuh standing there trying to wake others up. And most of the time, people just laugh at them, just like they laughed at him. So when I read the Quran's version, man, I didn't see some distant myth. I saw today. I saw how history repeats when we don't learn from it. And here's something that really got me. Nuh wasn't a warrior. He didn't fight anyone. He didn't try to take over. He just spoke truth. Patiently, lovingly, repeatedly. For 950 years. He didn't force anyone. He didn't manipulate. He didn't become bitter. He just kept going. And that's the kind of resilience we don't talk about enough, man. Everyone today is obsessed with loud voices, controversy, conflict. But Nuh, he was quiet strength. That's rare. That's real. And get this, even the Quran says that most of the messengers were rejected by their people. That's a pattern. So it's like the truth doesn't always win in numbers. It wins in patience and staying the course. And it makes me think maybe we've got it all backwards. Maybe being right isn't about being popular. Maybe real faith is sticking to your principles even when the whole world laughs at you. That's what Nuh did. And I think about that when I look around today, when I see people mocked for talking about God, or for standing up for what's right, or just for being different. It's the same cycle. But the Quran also says, don't lose hope. Because just like Nuh built that ark in the desert, sometimes you've got to build your strength in silence, prepare in private, because one day the storm will come. And when it does, man, you better be ready. You better have something solid to hold on to. Your values, your belief, your clarity. That's your ark. That's your lifeboat. And that hit me hard. Because we all need that, don't we? Something to hold on to when everything else collapses. And I know people hear these stories and they're like, come on, man, you believe a boat saved humanity. But that's not the point. The story isn't trying to prove how big the boat was, it's trying to prove how big the truth is. And whether it's a literal boat or a metaphorical one, it's telling you, prepare, wake up, choose the right side. And if you're the one being mocked, being pushed aside for what you believe, maybe you're on the path of Nuh. Maybe you're not crazy. Maybe you're the one building the ark while everyone else is laughing. So don't stop. Because one day, the rain might fall, and only the builders survive. Man, that just gives me goosebumps. Like real, primal, ancient wisdom. This stuff isn't fairy tales. It's warning. It's legacy. It's raw. And I just think if more people actually read these stories the way they're meant to be read, the way the Quran tells them, not as kids' stories, but as survival manuals for the soul, we'd be different. We'd slow down. We'd think. We'd prepare. And maybe we'd stop laughing at the guy building the ark. Maybe we'd help him. And you know what's really crazy, man? The more I think about the Noah story, the Islamic version, the more I start seeing parallels that just mess with my head. Like we talk about ancient civilizations like they were primitive, like they didn't have science or structure or understanding. But dude, what if they had all that? What if the people of Nuh weren't some cave-dwelling pagans, but advanced, powerful, maybe even arrogant because of how advanced they were? That's what the Quran hints at. It keeps describing people who were strong, who had power, who were proud of their systems and structures, but they still drowned. Because in the end, it wasn't about technology or progress. It was about ego. That's what destroyed them. And that's when it hit me. Maybe the flood wasn't just water. Maybe it was also an ego reset. Because think about it, what do we got today? AI, satellites, underground bunkers, financial systems that are more complex than anything in human history. But no one's listening. Everyone thinks they're untouchable. Everyone thinks they're too smart to fall. But then a microscopic virus shuts the world down for 2 years, and we still didn't wake up. We're in the same cycle, man, the same blindness, the same delusion. And the flood today? Maybe it's not water. Maybe it's distraction, spiritual emptiness, moral collapse. Maybe it's people being flooded with lies, with content, with noise, so much that they can't even hear truth anymore. That's a different kind of drowning. And the scariest part, they don't even know what's happening. At least in news time, people saw the water coming. Today, it's like we're drowning with our eyes open, smiling, scrolling, and sinking. And when you look at the Quran, it's like it was warning us the whole time. It keeps saying, look at the past, look at the people before you. They were stronger than you, they had more wealth, they built cities with pillars, and still they were wiped out because they denied the truth. And the more I read that, man, the more I realized we're not so different. We think we're evolved, but we're just better at hiding the decay. We've got pretty buildings and plastic smiles, but inside, we're empty. And that's what makes the story of New so terrifying. Because it's not a bedtime story. It's a reflection, a prophecy, a pattern, and it's happening again. But this time, the ark isn't wood. It's your soul, your principles, your ability to stay grounded when the flood of chaos hits. And here's where it gets really insane. The Quran keeps telling us that these stories aren't just for entertainment. It literally says, in their stories is a lesson for people of understanding. So the flood, it's not just a past event. It's an ongoing warning, and that's what modern people miss, man. Everyone's obsessed with aliens, simulations, conspiracies, and don't get me wrong, I love that stuff, but sometimes the biggest conspiracy is right in front of us. Like, what if the real hidden knowledge isn't some secret space program or reptilian elite? What if it's the stuff that's been in scripture all along? What if the thing we're ignoring is the very thing we need most? Because here's the mind-blowing thing. The Quran doesn't beg you to believe it. It says, we have made this clear for those who reflect. It challenges you. It's like, you don't want to believe? Fine. Just wait. And honestly, man, that's freaky. It's not like a salesman trying to pitch you religion. It's more like a cosmic GPS that's been screaming, turn back, and we're just speeding up, heading straight into the storm. So when I think of Noah's Ark now, I don't see a wooden boat. I see a metaphor for clarity in a time of chaos. I see a man who stood alone, who didn't flinch when the whole world called him crazy. And I see myself and all of us in the people who laughed at him. And I ask myself, which side am I really on? Am I building my ark? Or am I scrolling through the flood? Because the modern flood is seductive, man. It comes with likes, dopamine hits, entertainment. It makes you feel safe, distracted, comfortable, but deep down, you're drowning. And the worst part, most people will never realize it until it's too late, just like news people. So, yeah, that story messed me up, man. Not because it's about ancient history, but because it's about right now. And if we don't wake up soon, if we don't build something deeper than just material safety, we're all going to sink, not in water, but in meaninglessness. And that might be an even worse way to go. And you know what, man, I've been thinking about this a lot. There's this tug of war happening inside most people, whether they admit it or not, between belief and doubt, between what we can prove and what we can feel, between science and faith. And I know people always try to pit them against each other. Like, you either believe in data or you believe in God. But the more I read, the more I talked to people, especially Muslim scholars, the more I realize it's not a war. It's a mirror. Because science is just explaining how the system works. But faith is asking why the system exists in the first place. And the Quran, man, it's full of verses that literally tell you to observe, to reflect, to look at the skies, the mountains, the way the embryo forms, the way water gives life. It's not anti-science, it's pro-awareness. It's like the book is saying, go ahead, study it, break it down, discover everything. Just don't forget the source. And that hit me hard, because in the West, we've been trained to disconnect wonder from worship. You look at a galaxy through a telescope and go, wow, science is amazing. But the Quran says, then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? It connects awe to gratitude. It connects discovery to humility. And bro, let me tell you, that's something we've lost. We've replaced humility with arrogance, like we invented everything, like we're gods of our own reality. And that's dangerous, because when you start thinking you're the highest intelligence, you stop listening, you stop reflecting. You become just like the people New warned for 950 years. People so lost in their own ego, they laughed at a man building a ship while the sky was clear. And you know what's wild? That's us.